weird to say, but I think there is no inspiration. There is no thing because I wanted to make it very natural, and I wrote it back many years, and I do not do much editing in that. For example, I see things that I can improve now in this book, but I do not want to because I think it will take away the charm that the innocence has. So I think the charm of this book is the innocence that is to it. So I'm sorry, what was the question? The inspiration. So there's no inspiration, and I look at the life of every individual. The way in the keynote address he said that I celebrated my own streets and I celebrated the stories of my own people. So I tried to inculcate the stories that we hold, the story that our country, our land holds, the ideologies that we come from. So it is very natural for me without considering anything of that.
Let's discuss the audience of the novel. Do you think like it is for some specific audience or anybody who can enjoy it?
I think the audience, that was the only single thing that I thought about consciously when I was writing the book. I think the teens can enjoy the book very well. I think every age group can enjoy the book, but I think the teens can enjoy the book very well because they can relate. And the literature is beautiful when you can relate to it. So I think the teens can relate to it. That is why this book's audience is teen. But I think everyone would love to read something that is giving you something without being preachy. That preaches you without being preachy.
As you said, it's for a theme. So what's that specific thing that makes it different from the novels of history or the other novels of this genre?
Talking about the genre, I think when we write, we don't think about the genre that we are writing in. For example, the same is the case with, I think there's an author, her name is somewhat Margaret Atwood. And she says that when I write, I don't consider about the genre because when you consider or when you think about the genre, you box yourself. For example, if I'm writing a thriller, I would consider that this is the characteristics of thriller. If I'm writing a romance novel, I would say that this is the characteristics of it. I wrote without thinking about the genres, and it turned out beautiful because I think it reflected in the genre of young adult. And I now understand what young adult is. I didn't know any single thing when I was writing this book. So I think I now understand what a young adult book is, or genre is, and I would now classify it as a young adult. And it is different from any other writing that you would read, or it is different from any other author that you would read, because it is a prose that is in form of a drama. And I think more people who have read it would relate to it, because there are too much dialogues in it. So it becomes like a natural conversation that people have with one another, not like a description that you would read in a book that you cannot relate to. Also, it has blend of many different things. For example, this is also a characteristics of postmodern writing that we say pastiche, in which we say that there is the amalgamation of so many different writing styles. For example, you can have the writing styles of different authors in one writing. You can blur the boundaries of genre in that specific book. For example, we can find humor, we can find romance, we can find thrill, we can find tragedy. So when a book gives you so much in one setting, I think that makes it different from any other author or writing that we read.
So you give it the genre of young adult, but we also talked about postmodern literature. Do you think it falls under the category of postmodern literature?
I think it falls under postmodern literature because the focus is on character, the focus is not on the society as well. I'm not trying to change the society, and I think nobody has the power to change the society. So I'm trying to change, when we focus on individual, we focus on the very cell of the very whole society. So I think the focus is on the individual, that makes it postmodern. The plot is very different from a traditional plot that would have a very refined beginning, ending. So I think the difference in the plot makes it postmodern. The confusion at different places makes us postmodern because our life is very confusing. We in modern world does not live in a very clear or coherent manner. Similarly, the characteristics, as I mentioned, prestige make it postmodern, and the different amalgamation of different things make it postmodern. So all these characteristics, I think, combine together and it makes it a postmodern writing.
What about the setting? Like, as someone who has read this novel, the setting is USA, which is a European setting. So, how does this contribute to the character or the plot?
I think that is the one conflict that many people came up with. That the setting of the novel is USA, that is a European setting, while I am putting forward ideologies that we have in our Eastern settings. So how am I doing that? So I think the answer to this is if we consider the setting to be Asian, we would consider many different things as well. For example, the dress code that we have, the religion that we share, the language that we speak. And I think I'm not well versed in these things at the moment. So I took things that I'm well versed in, and that was the ideologies. That was the focus on the individual characters. So I shifted the setting to the European setting, that is the USA, and I gave it the ideologies of Eastern to make it pinpoint that there is a contradiction. For example, there should be something for the readers to dig out and understand. So I think these are the pointers, and there were different people who told me that change the setting, and the book will turn out beautiful. And I didn't change the setting, and I would not change the setting because I think this makes it different and beautiful. And I think this makes it food of thought for the audience, that how is the contradiction happening. So I think certain things should be left to the audience to understand and comprehend.
That's true. There are some supporting characters as well. So how do you see those supporting characters contribute to the plot of your novel?
There are supporting characters. In the very first, I thought about writing about a book whose story revolved around friends. So it was all about friends. So I think in the beginning of this book, the very characters are written. For example, the main character is Diana Bells, and the supporting characters are Eva, Sophia, Olivia, Dylan, and Jane Jones. So I think with the passage of time, the shift happened from the friends to an individual. And I think that was a thing that my father pointed out. Said that, what are you writing about? So I told him it is friends. And he said that, how can you write about so many different things in such a little book? So it was a very good pointer because I understand how you start with a broader thing and then you narrow it down. So I think it started with the conversation of friends, and that makes it humorous. That is, make it beautiful because we all want to enjoy something that hits back our childhood. And I think there was a post that I read on the Instagram, and it says that the stupidest idea that we had was to grow up. So we all wanted to grow up, and when we grew up, we understand that childhood was a very beautiful thing that we had in life. So I think that what are the supporting characters hit back us to the childhood and hit back us to the beautiful memories that we all share and we all enjoy at the same time.
While supporting characters, we see that the backdrop of the novel is school life. So why specifically, like, what's the reason for choosing school life as the backdrop?
Because I think I've been through this. We all have been through from the school and the college life. And I think the things that you have been through, you can portray it very well. The professional life, the glimpse of professional life is there in the novel, but it's very limited because I've never been to professional life. So I think this is what we do linguistically. We analyze the book considering that which portion is the biggest in it. So the portion of the school life is the biggest because I think that I'm well versed in it again, and because I've been gone through it, so I can do it in a very better way. That is why the setting of the major portion of the novel is from the school life.
Is there any specific message that you want the readers to take away from your novel? Is there any quote or any message that you think?
I think I would again say that this novel is preachy in a sense that you wouldn't even know that it's preachy. The way they said in the keynote that you've been ruled in a way that you don't understand you've been ruled. So it teaches you things that you don't even understand that you're being taught. So for example, as I said, the bonds that we share, that are very important. And I think the importance that I focused on was on the family and on the friends. And I think in the modern day, it is very important to stress on the family that we have and on the friends that we have. And I think when we are strong from our family, every single thing becomes easier in life. For example, I am strong from my family. My parents are there to support me, and they're sitting right next. Although there will be things that maybe they don't enjoy, but yet they're there to support me. So I think when you're very strong from your family, that is when you excel in your professional life. So I think we all need to understand that we should not take for granted our parents, our siblings, our friends. So they are the different things. And one of the other thing that is taught in this novel is respect. Everything in this world can be done by respecting the other. Every single thing can be, you can make all do whatever you want. If someone can talk to me sweetly and respectfully, I'll do everything for them. So when you do, the respect is the utmost important thing, and I think people should respect the boundaries that others share, and no matter from which age group or from which background you have, I think everyone is eligible to have the respect that they deserve. So I think the respect is the other thing that this book teaches, and the self-confidence. I think our society strains the self-confidence that we have. And we say that she's overconfident, she's oversmart. I think these are the stereotypes that we have connected to ourselves. If I'm good at something and confident in it, it doesn't mean I'm oversmart. It doesn't mean I'm overconfident. So I think the confidence that we hold in ourselves is very important, and it should be there. So the respect, the bonds, and the self-confidence that we have in our life is the celebrated and the takeaway notes from the novel.
I agree with you because these are the things that we need the most in today's society. Dear audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask your queries. Is there anyone? Does anybody have a question?
उर्दू में पूछे जो सवाल है।
जिस तरह आप comfortable हो.
Which was your favorite character to write and why?
Favorite character in why? I think बहुत सारे मेरे audience कहते हैं कि बताए Diana reflects me. I don't know when that happened, but I think that is a woman that I like to visualize. For example, the character of Diana is a woman that I want every single woman to be like her. Maybe I am in some way like her. I think the character of Diana. At some places, the character of his cousin, that is Dial. I even forgot the characters of my group. I think so at some places he, I don't know how, but he became very strong and very beautiful. And at that time, I was uploading that when I would write a chapter, I would upload it on Blogspot. So I think it was third chapter, and a viewer replied, "Diana बहुत बुरा है, लेकिन Diana वैसे नहीं करना चाहिए उसके साथ, Diana बहुत अच्छा है." And I deliberately did something to Dylan to outshine Diana. So I think at some time the characters are written by themselves, and that is the. For example, if you people read the fragment, she says that this character was not even in my thoughts that I would write, and she was written, and I don't know how. So I think when you write something, you understand that this is the thing, and it happens this way. When we write, certain things happens by themselves. But I enjoy Diana very much because I think it resonates every element that I want in life to be in a way. So Diana.
Thank you so much. Any other questions?
कोई और सवाल है?
What is the main theme of the novel?
As I said, in postmodern writing, our life doesn't run on themes. So there's no one specific. But there are different themes at the moment. For example, as I said, the self-affirmation, the self-confidence, a theme of women empowerment. You know, women empowerment in not a way that the West teaches us. it's not how the West teaches us that the woman will be empowered. It is how our religion, there are imprints of religion, but I cannot read it on a very broad level because I don't have command to the religion that much. So the women empowerment, I think, is the basic theme, and in that, different themes comes in crux. For example, the theme of the theme of the family, themes of the friends, the theme that, or as I said, self-confidence, and the theme that, for example, with passage of time, we say that in our modern society, there is a portion in that novel. In our modern society, our parents say something and we do not approve of that because we say that, for example, we are more in this modern world and we are not. And for example, but I have reflected in a certain way, but that's what our parents say is very right at even this moment. And we don't understand it. There is a dialogue by her, by Diana, and she says that she wanted to take arts and designing, but her mother wanted her to take law. And she was discussing it with her friend, and she was crying, and her friend says that your mother will understand, she won't understand this modern. She says that I'm not crying because I'm saying my mother is wrong. I'm crying because I am vulnerable at this moment and I understand my mother is so true. So I think there are different themes that you would understand at the very moment.
Thank you.
Thanks. As you mentioned about classical literature and specifically then postmodernism, so I would like to know the difference between classical and postmodern literature. What makes the real difference between both of them? And I would like to know, according to your own perspective, the difference between classical literature and postmodern literature.
I think there is a very huge difference between classical and postmodern literature, as there is a huge difference between our greenfields and green. For example, the classics were very different. For example, the Greeks that we have, the Romans that we have, for example, Aristotle, Sophocles, Aeschylus, and different other writers. If you look at their writings, let's say if you look at their dramas, they're very different from the dramas that we recently have. And most of our dramas are screenplay. So if we compare, for example, Aristotle's any work with the screenplays that we nowadays have, I think you can see the difference. For example, they focus on, the very thing is they focus on symbolism too much. They focus on the deep thoughts too much. They focus on the morality and human understanding too much that we at postmodern time does not do. They focus on the style and pattern too much, we in a modern society doesn't do that. So there are different things that they focused on. For example, and even when for example, the main critic, Matthew Arnold, he even criticized these writers and he says that these are not the great. There is difference between great writers and good writers. So he says they were great writers and nowadays what people are coming, they are good writers. So I think the difference lies in the themes that they choose because they were people of wisdom and people of Greek and mathematicians and philosophers and whatever. So they were people of wisdom and we are also people of wisdom but we say things in a very simple manner. For example, if I'm saying there is a quote, I don't remember by whom it is, I think it was by Rumi. He says that if we look closer to every individual, we will understand that all of them are pretending. We can also speak the same context, but in a very simple way. That is the main difference between the classics and the postmodern. We don't focus about the subject matter. We don't focus about the whole thing, what we study in formalism. We don't focus upon the inner thoughts of the individual. We focus on the very immediate response. And that is why, and even if in this time and age, if you write something that is very deep, people won't read it. People won't even waste their 1 minute on it. So I think the writing style, the themes, the matter, everything is very specific and that makes it different from the classics. So the classics are very different from that of the postmodern.
I have just one little query to know about that. Why didn't you choose to write Eastern names, to give Eastern names to the characters and have Eastern setting rather than the Western?
Right.
Coalition. As I said before, the setting was East Western because I don't want it to delve into the themes of religion and the theme of traditions. Because if we would consider the setting as East, would we consider the, for example, the religion that we share? How can we exclude the religion? How can we exclude the language? How can we exclude the dress code? These are the part and parcel of our lives. But I'm not well versed in these things. And the West does not have any of these kind of application. You can wear what you want, you can speak what you want. And I think that's the thing that resonates with my character. So I think I chose the settings because of the characters, because of the way the characters were, and in a way that would make it easier for me to write. Again, if the setting is Western, so I would choose the Western names, of course. And why the names of Diana in specific is because I love the name Diana. And with the incorporation of bells, it became make it royal yet simple at the same time. When we say beautiful and very simple at the same time. So I think the name of Diana, with incorporation of the bells, make it common, make it simple, yet beautiful and royal at the same time. And the other names were chosen in a way that I wrote English name in Google, and whatever the name came, I so it's not a big theory behind it. The other names were taking this way. Only I thought for Diana, because that is what my concerns lie with. All the other characters were taken very casually, and I think that is the attitude of the postmoderns, that we are very casual in life.
So please see that the main character is a woman, and you also talked about women's evolution and postmodern writing. So how do you represent the woman in your novel?
I think the women in my novel is very different from the women's that most of the English writers portray. Many of the diasporic writers portray. She's not victim, she's not vulnerable. And I think that makes it different from any other woman that you characterize in literature. The women that I speak of are very confident, are very full in their self, they don't need others. There's a quote by her, she says, I don't need help by others because I know when you can't help yourself, you ask for help. So I can help myself. So my women's are characterized like this, but yet at the same time, they're respectful and they understand that every single thing is important in life. And I think I represented the women without them being compared to the men. I think we don't need comparisons. I think the world is much more about the comparison, much more about every time having a discussion which gender is superior and which gender is inferior. How can we say a mind is inferior or the heart is inferior? How can we say the sky is more important or the land is more important? So I think the charm in this book is that it doesn't compare. It tells the strength of the women in their self, and they tell the weak points and the vulnerable points of the women and how they cope up with themselves and how they excel in life. So it's different from all the other women that any of the different writers. Our diasporic writers presents English women's very. I don't like the way that they present women. For example, our diasporic writers, the very famous that we have nowadays is Vapsi Silvan and the Sana Ahmed, Kamila Shamsi, and the Shaza Fatma. They're all still they are writing about how we are suppressed about the clothes that we wear, how we are suppressed just because we are wearing our hijab, how we are suppressed just because our parents want us, the security of us. So I think we should celebrate our culture, our tradition in a way that we should tell people that this is the values and the morals that we hold. And in this way, I think my women are different from any other women that would be portrayed by any other English writer.
What will be your motivation? As you said before, पेरेंट्स वगैरह से फैमिली में हमें रिस्पेक्ट मिलना चाहिए और एक रिस्पेक्टफुल रिलेशनशिप बनानी चाहिए. सो फॉर एग्जांपल इफ देयर इज सर्टेन समवन जो कि ऑलरेडी अगेंस्ट गया है देयर पेरेंट्स विश, नाउ दैट रिस्पेक्ट का जो लेवल है वो उतना बैलेंस नहीं है वगैरह, एंड दे आर स्टिल परस्यूइंग दैट थिंग जो कि वो करना चाहते हैं. So what will be your motivation for them? Because आपने जैसे कहा ना कि आपको घर से like respect वगैरह मिला है, and this is a main reason कि आप excel कर रहे हैं. So how will they excel if they don't have that support, that respect from their family, from the friends, or anyone like?
मेरे ख्याल में हर माँ बाप अपने बच्चों को डिफरेंट तरीके से सपोर्ट करते हैं. At that time, we don't understand it. For example, and even if they support you in very different manners, they're there for you for your good. मुझे नहीं लगता, I don't know if some वो आजकल दुनिया बहुत डाइवर्स है, कुछ भी हो सकता है, but I don't think कोई भी माँ बाप ऐसे होंगे जो कि बच्चों की खुशी नहीं चाहते. But they understand what is good for you. And they can see, they are seer. As we say, poets are seer, parents are also seers. And at that point of time, we don't understand that what kind of seeing they have. So I think parents, even if you have a clash, I think that is what our religion holds us to. To understand that even if you have a clash with your parents, we need to respect them. And we need to understand their point of view. I think that's why we are different from the West. Because our religion holds us at certain point. And I think things turn out to be beautiful. For example, मेरे माँ बाप उनको पता था मैं कुछ लिख रही हूँ. And they stood up with me. They were there for me. अभी भी अगर कुछ है तो they are there for me. ठीक है? तो आप strong होते हैं. For example, वो बोलते नहीं है. For example, मेरी बहन बोलती नहीं है. But she is here. So I think लोग बोलते नहीं हैं, but they are there for you. And even if you have a clash with it, that is where our religion holds us. I think with situation things, they have to be the best for the better.
हमारा क्लेश होता है पेरेंट्स के साथ, तो हमें उस वक्त ऐसा क्या करना चाहिए? हम तो फिर भी बात नहीं सबर भी नहीं होता है.
I think होना चाहिए.
आप अपनी तरफ कोई सजेशन हमें दे कि हम उस सूरत में क्या करें?
मैं जवाब के बगैर नहीं रह सकती. मेरी अम्मा जानती है.
मैं जवाब
के बगैर नहीं रह सकती. तो आई थिंक जवाब कभी कभी खुद को दे देना चाहिए. तो आई थिंक एक होता है ना, एज डिफरेंस भी होता है, रिस्पेक्ट
उसमें नहीं स्टार्ट हो जाते हो कहते कि तुम लोग रिस्पेक्ट नहीं करते.
बिल्कुल. मॉडर्न पढ़ाई ने खराब की है. मेरी अम्मा ये बोलती है मॉडर्न पढ़ाई ने हमारा दिमाग खराब किया. इट्स नॉट, वो बोलते कुछ हमारे से डजंट मीन इट. आई थिंक पेरेंट्स डजंट मीन इट. 5 मिनट बाद हमसे भी वो खुला होता है, 5 मिनट बाद उनसे भी वो खुला होता है, पर उनका एक्सप्रेस करने का तरीका डिफरेंट होता है और हमारा एक्सप्रेस करने का
हम कहते हैं कि अब जमाना मॉडर्न हो गया, आप लोग भी मॉडर्न हो जाए, लेकिन वो लोग ये बात नहीं मानते. जनरेशनल प्लेस
कुछ चीजें होती है ना, you can run from it. These are the things that you cannot run.
रोज हमारी यही कोशिश होती है, लेकिन फिर भी क्लेश ही है. इसका कोई जवाब
आपने हमें क्या करना चाहिए? हमें चुप रहना चाहिए.
पेरेंट्स बताना चाहिए, माँ बाप को बताना चाहिए.
बोलते हमने
चुप भी नहीं रहना
बोलने का
चाहिए.
हक तो होता है ना, तो आई थिंक हमें सुन लेना चाहिए कभी.
बच्चों की भी सुन लेनी चाहिए ना, सिर्फ माँ बाप को नहीं कि बस
बच्चे में पेशेंस होना चाहिए.
हाँ, सबर सबर होना चाहिए. तो हमें कभी है पर है आ जाएगा. और
We talked about parents, but what about the country? We see that your book is published, but how do you see the publishing experience in Pakistan? Like, what were the things that you faced while publishing your book? Please keep going.
I think publishing in Pakistan is very difficult. It is very costly and it is very difficult. And if you publish a book that does not have a very well-known publishing, for example, this book is published by KDP. I think it's a very good platform for all the young people who want to write and who want to publish and who want to be in the spotlight of even the Western media. It is KDP. It is Kindle Direct Publishing. It is a platform of Amazon. It is not traditional publishing. It is self-publishing. So the book is self-published. That's why I think even when people say where could we buy it, so I say approach me and email me. I'll give you the copies. Because if you go to Amazon, they will charge you in dollars. And where is rupee and where is dollar? So then they say, what is written in this book that you are giving it for so high grade? So it's not my problem, it's the problem of our rupee, the status of our rupee in Pakistan. So I think that is the thing. And once you publish it, I think self-publishing is a very good option in Pakistan. But the traditional publishing is very difficult because in traditional publishing, they are very so costly. So we cannot afford a student, a young individual cannot afford it. So I think if we go to the self-publishing and when we have time in future that we want to publish it again, the book can be published 3, 4, 5 times. For example, this book, it has my poetries over 5 to 6 pages, and it is traditionally published. This book is self-published, and this is traditionally published. So this is costly. This is too costly for me, and this is not costly. I have 1 copy of this, and I have 1,000 copies of this. So I think if you just want to publish it, because publishing is just verification that I'm out there, that I'm not. I'm a shy campus. So I'm a shy campus. So if you understand, publishing is just a need. So if you said someone asks you, is your book published? Yes, published. They don't ask you from where it is published. Then when in future, if you have time, if you have money, if you have things like this, you publish it. For example, there was Shazal Fatma. I texted her and said how it feels like your books have been read in our curriculum. It's a very big achievement that we read someone's book in our curriculum. She says that no writer is ever thinks that she has made it. We do something and we move on. That is the life of the writers. They do something and they move on. So when you publish something, you publish it and you move on. And when in future you have time, you can republish it whatever you want. But I think publishing in Pakistan is very difficult. And very difficult for the teams because no one takes you seriously. So I think for people to take you seriously, the traditional publishing is a very good option, but I think it's very costly. So self-publishing is a very good option. There.
But Marshall, you have published it now. So, is there any specific feeling about this specific book that is different from the other book that you read? I don't know.
I don't know whether I would be able to write another book in the future, another novel or another thing. But I think this book would always be my personal favorite. And there's the last page is, if you think it was just for fun, then think over it again. I hope it remains one of your sweet memories. So I think the motive of the book is that it remains one of your sweet memories, and I think it would always be mine. So at that point, I don't consider much of the opinions of the readers. I consider what I want to consider. So I think it is very beautiful. And I personally like this book.
We do have some quotes from your novel, so if you want to end the session with these quotes.
Can you go back, please? So the very quote is by Diana Wells, and she says, I don't rely on titles for validation. I am Diana Wells. That's all I am, and that's all I need. So we don't need any title for validation, any post for validation, or any other thing for validation. I am Diana Wells, that's all I am, and that's all I need. So you don't need anything else. So I think that was the point where I wanted to say that the attitude that I built in the character. The second is, there was a paper session going on. There was a paper that they were attempting.
Exam.
So one of the characters said to Diana that your paper code is B and mine is also B. Jack said sweetly by rubbing a hand over his growing beard. So what? Diana replied casually. With such a cold reaction, he lost his hope that she could understand his inner feelings. Jack tried to make 10 from his fingers by showing her both his hands with 10 fingers stretched wide. Diana looked at his hands and then to his face. Stop signaling. You're sitting next to me. Just whisper. 10th objective. Jack whispered as if he was transmitting some serious information among agents. Diana looked at her question paper sheet and answered, romance. Jack blushed. No, the answer. Idiot, the answer is romance language. Don't flatter yourself. So, it is relevant that it's humorous and in the same way. The other is, the element that is a little funny, it's another quote by Diana, in which she teases her the cafeteria owner, because he's not married, and his name is Harry, so he says, Mr. Harry, round like a cherry, wants to have a fairy, but we know that he will never get married. So it's poetic and it's funny at the same time, so there's another exception. I think that's it, or there's that's it.
With this, we come to the end of the session. I hope we have provided something insightful for all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.